Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Sewn Goku. And if you're not quite sure what this is, it's the kid version of Goku from the original Dragon Ball. I know some people don't know that there was a story before Dragon Ball Z. This is from that. This is young Goku when he was a kid, just freshly landed on Earth. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. Yes, it had crazy proportions. His head is supposed to be really big. His body's supposed to be very small. Is this perfectly accurate? Definitely not. But Dragon Ball wasn't necessarily accurate with itself most of the time, so I think any inaccuracies are ones that we can excuse. At least I'm willing to do that. If you aren't, then, well, that's up to you. That's okay. But I don't think it's wildly off or anything like that, so I think it's probably good enough. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands to the top of his head about 10 centimeters, closer to 12.5 to the top of his hair spike. That makes him just about 4 inches and 5 inches. He's definitely the smallest of the bunch. We haven't seen one this little before, and they did a surprisingly good job. In fact, they did something on this figure which I like a whole lot. They did two things which I like a whole lot, and they haven't done them on previous figures. So hopefully that's a thing we can look forward to going forward, which is what you can do when you look forward. Okay, so paint job on this guy, pretty minimal. I don't see any shading on the skin or on the gi. They did paint the logo on the chest and on the back though, so that's pretty good. The paint job for the wrists is pretty good, and then for the feet, that's fine. And then, of course, for the faces, which you'll see as we do the accessories. So let's do the accessories. We have 3 different faces. The one that comes on him in the package where he's kind of smiling with his mouth open. One where he's really smiling with his mouth wide open. And then one where he's squinting and has his mouth open, smiling again with his teeth showing. So Goku was a pretty happy person even when he was fighting people back then, like he still is now. And then we also have a whole bunch of different hands. We have the 2 fist hands that come on him in the package, 2 gripping hands, 2 peace sign or victory hands, 2 karate chop hands, 2 martial arts hands, 1 Dragon Ball holding hand, which doesn't hold the Dragon Ball very well, and 2 wide open palm hands. So of course we do have our first Dragon Ball in scale with our SH Figuarts. It's just a clear orange ball with 4 red printed stars on it. It's supposed to be kind of a smooth, glossy finish. Mine has a big matte spot on it, but I guess that's probably going to happen randomly across the molding process, so no big deal there. We do have 2 different tails that peg into his back, one that's just kind of a neutral tail, and then one where he's flying on the Nimbus. They peg in with a ball peg, but the ball peg doesn't really fit well, so the tails are kind of limp when they're in there, and they pop out way too easily as you're posing them. So that's definitely not ideal. We do have his power pole, one version where it's extended a little bit, and then one where it's in the little container thingy that goes on his back, and of course you can remove that top part where the pole is, so that it looks like he has taken it out of the container. And then lastly, we have the flying Nimbus, which I'm going to show you rather than just post a photo. So it comes with your standard Tamashii Nations display stand, and it gives you 2 arms to support it, I guess because it's pretty heavy, because this is like almost solid plastic. Oddly, I don't know why they did that, but they did. And this just looks like crap. That's just way too much stuff going on. So what I would suggest is you go ahead and just remove one of these guys. You don't need it on there. And then you can put this guy in the middle like you would expect. And this is really if you only want to do this. I mean, you could get away with just getting one of those acrylic risers and setting the Nimbus on that. But as long as you bend the hinges to the max, especially the middle one, you're not going to have any real issues with it falling over. If you lean it too far, it might fall over. But 1 is definitely enough. Now you're going to have to balance it properly and make sure the hinges are not going to go anywhere. But you can even tighten these up a little bit. Be careful, if you tighten them up too much, they could break the plastic, but just use the 1 and it won't look as crappy. And honestly, you don't need this one either. You get this one to hold up Goku, but look at that. That's just way too much metal and plastic. That's going to ruin your display. And it really sucks that they did that too, because that's not good. They could have easily just made footholes in there, but even without them, just balance your figure on it on your own and it'll look so much better. So much better. I really hate that they put that socket in there. And then we do have this piece which just lets you rotate it around so it looks like he's curving or whatever, but it's pretty weird looking the way they did that. I don't really care for that. There shouldn't be anywhere near as much of a gap in there. It looks pretty odd, but otherwise it looks like the flying Nimbus, so that's fine. But I would just do what I said. It'll look a whole lot better on your display, but you have to be careful because you don't want it to fall over this way or this way. You're going to have to tighten this one up and make sure you balance it properly, but it's definitely doable. So there you go. Let's go ahead and talk about the figure now. Gosh, I forgot how heavy this thing was. This is like, it might actually be solid plastic. I don't know why they did that. That's so crazy to me that they made something like this so heavy when they didn't need to at all. Whatever. Okay, back to Goku. So, very, very solid figure. If you want to see how the faces connect and how the neck works, there you go. The neck is a little bit of a unique design. We have this kind of sculpted hinge. Okay, you see that? So there's one hinge right there. It's like your standard ball hinge, but instead of just having a peg, it's got an offset peg, which isn't really good. It does allow you to do this. You can lean the head a little bit, then of course you can rotate on that. But the hinge right here, the hinge that lets him look forward and back, you can't go back any farther because of how that's designed. And then because of having the face on there, you can't go forward any farther. So it's basically, it's incredibly limiting. It's very limiting. So that's not a good design at all. I don't like that. They could have easily just done a ball peg and it would have been fine. The neck is not articulated, so that's a problem. Well, it's not a problem, but it's a downgrade from what we've seen in the past. It's okay because he's so tiny. Now the shoulders, I really, really like this design. It's like a butterfly joint, but it's part of the gi, and it just moves around side to side like that. It kind of swivels. It's such a good design because it doesn't have that extra piece that we see often on the Dragon Ball figures. So it's always where it belongs, and it gives him a better butterfly joint without even looking like a butterfly joint. It's such a good idea. I love that. And then we have, it's a little ball peg that connects the arm to the butterfly joint. And then the shoulder is the ball hinge, which is the best way to do a ball hinge shoulder. Sometimes you can have sculpt work on it. This one's just round because it's little kid Goku. But it's essentially the same design as like Broly or Tien, so that's good. No problems there. Really nice range. Bicep swivel, single jointed elbow. Little bit better than 90, but that's okay. No issues there. And then for the wrists, it's a really tiny ball hinge, so that's good. For the torso, I'm pretty sure it's a ball peg and a hinge, because you can lean him forward like that, and you can see inside. It looks to me like, there goes the tail again. There's a hinge at the very bottom and a ball peg maybe nowhere? Nope, it's at the top like I thought. Okay, there's one at the top. So you can kind of lift him up and lean him forward. You get decent range out of it like that, but you do get gapping the more you use that hinge. So that's up to you, what you want to do with that. But you can just pretty much rely on the ball peg to move him around. And then, of course, the waist has a ball peg also, which is pretty nice. It rotates and leans a little bit, so that's good. The belt is a loose piece. It'll rotate, and you can swing this around, so that's good. I hate it when they don't let that part rotate, so it's pretty nice. Now, the hips are like a combination of the old hips and the new hips. It looks like it's the same where you have the hinge going out to the side. You don't. You have a ball peg in there, which is kind of strange, because the ball peg stays in place, and then you rotate the leg around, and then this piece just floats around with it, which isn't a bad design, except you can see the crotch part dangles a bit, which I haven't said before in my life, but now I can check that off my list. So it's not the best design, but you do get decent range out to the sides, and then rotating the legs forward and back works really nicely, so that's good. I like that. Then, of course, you have a thigh swivel in there. Single jointed knee, definitely not the best idea ever, the way they did that. It looks pretty weird, but it's not terrible. It's okay. But then the other thing that I really like about this guy is he actually has ball hinge ankles, which have really good range. Look at that. All kinds of range there. And so you can rotate them around and get a really nice ankle rocker. And you have a toe hinge, which is okay. So yeah, this guy may not be the best figure in the world, but look at that range. Look at that. I mean, you can pretty much put him in any pose you want. Now, one weird thing about this guy, I'm glad that fell off and reminded me, these really just kind of sit in there. And mostly the sculpt holds them in place, but they don't snap on or anything. So it even says in the directions, if they fall off, put them back on. So that's a little weird that they didn't actually snap on at all, but look at that. A really well done figure for being a slightly inaccurate figure. It's one of the better figure arts they've released lately. Definitely could have used a little bit of shading instead of giving us a solid plastic Nimbus. A little bit of paint shading would have been nice, but definitely worth getting, guys. I highly recommend it. I forgot to mention one last thing. The Dragon Ball that we got does fit in Shenron's display part thingy at the bottom. So once you get all of these, you can replace that ring of crappy Dragon Balls with this one, which is fine. I mean, as far as a marketing plan goes, it's really good. As far as a collector goes, it kind of sucks because now you're going to have to buy 7 figures with these in them in order to do that. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but overall, it's a pretty solid figure. tail falls off too easily and no paint on the shading aspect of it, but otherwise really good. So I do recommend it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And in the meantime, keep collecting.